morning, everyone.
Good
Youngstown Stock Channel, Joe and Kelin in the morning. Back to our regular thing here.
Yes.
Kelin, you were missed a little bit.
Reunited, and it feels so good. You're like, I don't know about that.
Thank you for the serenation.
Thanks.
Is that a real word? Serenation?
Yeah, serenation. It is now.
Okay.
It is now.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't leave you alone for a couple of days. You got to hurt yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that was terrible.
Little tiny Tim. You're like little tiny Tim now, just like
Hobbling
around. It's so sad.
Yeah.
So did you actually like break something? Or
I tore a couple ligaments in my ankle. And so it on the side of my foot, it looked like I had like a hamster that was trying to get out of my sock. It was freaking huge.
Oh my God.
And that has since gone down a little bit. There's still some I don't have all of my movement in my ankle, and I could put weight on it now without any kind of pain whatsoever. But I'm ginger with it because if I twist my ankle wrong, like I could stop the healing process. And so I'm very careful and deliberate. So my hobbling isn't usually because of pain. It's because I'm trying to be careful.
Do you have like a boot or anything on?
I wore it for like 2 days. I wore it Wednesday and Thursday.
Did your doctor say you only had to wear it 2 days?
We don't have like those kind of interactions. He knows better than to tell me what to do.
Oh my
Usually
God.
I'm just having him fill in the parts that I don't already know. And I was interested, like, I can't tell if there's a fracture or a ligament tear. Because I'm going to do one thing if it's a fracture, and I'm going to do another one if it's a ligament tear. And so I needed him to, give me an X-ray.
Yeah.
And once I knew what it was, then I was like, cool, you're out.
So it's not a fracture.
It's not a fracture.
It's a ligament tear.
But I did probably fracture part of my big toe. But I've done that a million times, so it's not any big deal. He took exception to this part because he knows that I'm just going to let it heal, and he says that if you don't go see an orthopedic surgeon or a doctor in that specialty, that if it heals wrong, it can cause back pains and whatever if it doesn't heal the proper way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. It's still swollen pretty good, so you can't really tell if it's a break or a bruise or whatever. So probably by midweek this week, I'll be able to put some pressure on an unswelled toe to find out if it's breakage, because it'll still be tender if it's broken. I haven't touched it or ran it into anything, so I really don't know what its status is right now. But there's my medical update for all the world to hear. Yeah.
I'm like cringing.
Really?
Yeah, just because I don't know, I'm very visual. Like when someone describes something, I feel like I'm like right there with you. And so it just makes me cringe. And ligament tear, that's going to hurt for a while, I feel like.
Yeah. It's a 2-month rehab of knowing that it's still not happy with me. But it's a quick heal as far as like when it starts to reattach and grow back and fix itself.
And I have heard that in some injuries, putting weight on it actually helps the healing process.
For sure.
Especially with bones, putting pressure on bones helps grow and strengthen bone.
Yeah.
But did he say he would prefer you not do this?
He doesn't waste those words on me. He's been my doctor for a really long time. He knows what is wasted words and what's not. And I give, the information that I give to him has him convinced that I've got some real expertise in this department, and he doesn't waste it. He's going to say something like, rest up. And I'm going to say, I'm not going to.
Elevate it. No,
but I have every time I'm laying down, I'm putting some ice on it. So I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing all the things
bringing down the inflammation.
Right. I am doing all the things and I don't have to be told to do them. He's not my boss.
And so this was you slipped on the stairs?
So 5 o'clock in the morning.
He's not my boss. You're not the boss of me.
5 o'clock in the morning. I hit the top step. My foot must have still been a little sweaty from just having woken up. And it slid on the carpet like I hit ice. So my planted foot on step number 1 slid like it was on ice. And that foot skipped down and hit every step. But this left leg wasn't planted. And it just got dragged down. And
so it was under you?
Well, sometimes it was on this side of my body. Sometimes it was on this side. So I think it was trying to get some traction to stop the fall from happening. And it sacrificed itself in the effort.
Did you fall the whole way down?
All the way down. 12 steps, yeah.
Did you scream?
It was the most pain that I've ever felt in my entire
Did you cry?
Life. Well, I didn't know. I mean, I lost feeling in it. And so I grabbed it And I didn't want to look at it because I didn't want to see a bone protruding or whatever. And that's
you'd
what
go into shock.
That's what it felt like. And so I just kind of kept it where it was. It was beet red. I held it so it was immobile, and I waited for all the chemicals to come down so I can assess it. So I gave myself a good 10 minutes of just sitting there, feeling the pain. But immediately, all my pain receptors were masked by the extreme chemicals that hit my brain.
Did anyone hear you?
Oh yeah, I woke everybody up.
So, could you tell, even though you didn't want to look at it, could you tell by their reaction how bad it was or not?
No, they were not inducing panic, so they were very soothing and calming, and they didn't overreact. And
did they give you a Joe? Don't look at it, because then you know it's bad. I've had to say that to my daughter before. Don't look at it.
No, they didn't say that because they knew those words would be wasted on me as well. I don't like
you'd
being
be like,
told what
what?
to do. They played the perfect role. They help in it. But I don't like asking other people to do things. I do not like being dependent on other people.
No,
So it's
really?
like I know that it's going to take me 30 minutes to walk up the steps and grab something. So I'm like, Ryan, would you do me the 900th favor in a row? Would you go get this thing for me? And he's like, yes, Dad, I'll get that for you.
Just sit down with it elevated and a little bell. Ding, 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 ding. I'm thirsty.
Not that guy.
Ding, 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 I
Not
need
that guy.
something.
All right, we've wasted too much time talking about me, so let's move on. What you were gone last week.
Was.
And there were a few listeners that said we miss Kelin.
Did they?
They did.
Thanks, guys.
So yeah, what were you into?
I was in Minnesota. More specifically, I was in Minneapolis.
Were you setting up a daycare?
No, I
Were you
wasn't.
not setting up a daycare? Okay.
I was not. So I went to a women's conference with my church, and it was not initially meant for Minneapolis.
Okay.
So it's not like we went there because of the unrest or anything like that. It just happened to have been moved to Minneapolis, and it happened to have aligned with the unrest. So it was a little nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie. Like when we found out that all of this, that stuff was going on, I was like, hold up. Are we sure we're having this? Like every day checking my email, like, is the conference canceled? Is the conference canceled? But it has calmed down. I was in a very big hotel conference center, so there was really no need to even ever leave this building. I think we left one time to go to dinner. Other than that, I was just in this. But it was interesting. I had an interesting conversation because one of the things the local people, I guess I should say the conference leaders, were saying that they even asked the people in Minnesota, hey, what can we do? I mean, this was a group of over 600 women that went.
Now, is this gender discrimination in a fully equal society, having grouped exclusions around?
Well,
a
I'll tell you
conference?
why.
Yeah.
There were some men there.
Okay.
It was a women's conference. It was centered around women. Some men came. The reason being it was a Wesleyan, I'm going to butcher this, Wesleyan Holy Women's Clergy Conference, based around different denominations that allow female preachers, and not all religions do. And so that's kind of why it was informative and encouraging, and basically it was surrounding the idea that not all religions accept females speaking in the church, and these denominations, it was like Free Methodist and Church of God and Nazarene and Salvation Army, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that celebrate women leading in a church setting when not all religions allow that.
Okay.
And some men came. Some men. There were some male pastors. There were some men there to help and support and things like that. So it wasn't only women, but it was mostly women.
Okay. I just want to put that out as well.
You would have hated it.
Yeah?
You would have. I couldn't help but think. It was, again, it was Minnesota. There are a lot of immigrants at this conference. Just happens to be a lot of women with different backgrounds, Hispanic and whatnot. And so it was a lot of like encouraging them. And I was a little like hesitant. I was like, listen, if this is going to be like a bashing session all week, I'm going to have a hard time. Like, because like you, I even said, are we going to bash men? Are we going to discuss immigration? Is this going to be political? Because if so, I'm going to have a long week. And it really wasn't bad. And multiple times they mentioned the appreciation for men as well. It really wasn't that bad, but it was interesting. When I left, so I flew home Friday and I got an Uber from the hotel to the airport, and my Uber driver was Somali. And so I'm like, I am in Minneapolis with a Somali person. What am I going to not say anything? I'm going to not address the elephant in the room. I have to. So I did. And I asked him if he would mind on our chat. It was only like 20 minutes to the airport, but I said, would it be okay if I ask you about some of the things going on and that have been going on? Yeah. So he said, yeah, definitely. I said, how have things been lately here in the city? And he had said that it, for a while, was a ghost town, because a lot of the conference leaders said that they asked people in Minneapolis, what can we do while we're here? You've got over 600 something visitors. And they said, support a local business. Our local businesses are hurting. And he said, yeah, it's been a total ghost town because people were scared and there was all this unrest. And so a lot of business owners aren't making any money. And I said, yeah, that's understandable. Has it calmed down quite a bit? And he said, it has. It was really, really scary for a while, he said. And he's like, and then some people started getting hurt. And I said, yeah, I'd heard about that. And he said, so that made things even worse. But I had said, how has it been with ICE here? And we hear a lot on the news. What's your take on it? And he said he had 2 run-ins with ICE officers. Now, he has been in the States for 20 years. He is a citizen. He says, I have to carry all my documents with me at all times. He said the first time he got pulled over, he had his 10-year-old son with him. They asked him for his documentation. He showed them, and they let him go. The second time, he said he was out driving, and he comes to a stop sign or a stoplight, and out of nowhere, 2 vehicles, one right in front of him and one right behind him, 2 ICE officers. And they blocked him in, and he's like, okay, let's do this again. I am a citizen, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, get out of the car. And they started making him answer all these questions. Well, how long have you been a citizen? How long have you been here for? What are you doing? And he's like, I answer all these questions already. I don't have to keep telling you guys this. I am working right now. He said the frustration is what they will do is almost antagonize you to irritate you. And if you become aggravated, they will accuse you of resisting. He said, you can't just pull me over because of the way I look. And he says their response was, yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can pull you over because you look a certain way. Yes, we can. So he's like, okay, then. And then he says, push, push, push. It feels like they're trying to push you, he said. And I said, okay. And then we drove by on the way to the airport. We drove by the government building. He says, that's the government building. If ICE arrests you, you are detained in that building. And I said, okay. And he said, and it can be for hours and hours, sometimes 8 hours or more, just to say, all right, you're good, you can go, but you have no way home, and they don't let you make a phone call. He says there are now people that just sort of camp out outside the government building to offer rides home because somebody got stopped, somebody got pulled over, somebody got arrested. Turns out they were fine. They were allowed to go, but they have no way to get home. So people are giving them rides. And I said, okay, interesting.
Do you think that's too heavy-handed?
What?
Where ICE officials are allowed to target you for what you look like and thoroughly investigate to see if you're not one of the people that they're looking for?
I have mixed feelings on this. As somebody who supports some of what ICE does, obviously, I don't want dangerous, violent criminals in the country. Obviously, if somebody is here illegally and they're causing problems, I want them out of here. I'm also a little leery, like, could they be wasting time dealing with somebody that is like, I am a citizen, here is my documents, we go through this all the time, can I go now? Part of me is like, I don't know, I am on the fence. Like, what constitutes reasonable detainment and what is like, move on, guys. Like you got a big job to do. Can you keep it moving? Can you, like, did you run a license plate? Did you do anything to check his background?
Let me give you a hypothetical then. Okay. So let's just say there's a string of robberies in your neighborhood. And somebody says that there is some video surveillance of someone wearing a red hoodie that may be a suspect, right? And the APB is that this person may be carrying around false identities that they bought from some whatever. Now, you as the citizen, your standards for how you obviously everybody agrees that the red hooded guy needs to be found, right? So no more robberies happen. And so they put out an APB for somebody in a red hood. Now everybody's looking for a red hooded person. Now, suspicion going through the process, and if you know that they, flash an identification as part of the metric, well, your cop that sees their license is putting that through, they might have a stolen identity, so that's not going to immediately clear that person if they have documents. And showing somebody in the car, like, pull over the red hood, drew my attention to you. The documents might or might not be legit, so I would expect the cop to find people in red hoods, approach them and see if they fit the description, know that their documentation might not be legit, and do a further investigation somewhere where you can make sure that those documents, when you're in front of a computer, in front of investigators, are legit. So if you set the stage, who's responsible for the heavy-handedness, it means that Minnesota imported a ton of people, allowed them to break the law to an extent that you really can't even trust real documentation. All the due process means that we're going to go through you. But once somebody goes through that one time, you have to give them an unfalsifiable, I went through the I'm legit process, like a fast pass or a pre-check that basically says, we're going to do it to you one time because you know you're not a suspect anymore. I know you're not a suspect. Now we have to let 10,000 other people a quick way to let them know that you've already been ferreted out. And that's what it feels like to me.
And I will say, I could be wrong, but so he had a pretty thick accent. So there could have been a few things I missed. I do think he did say that first stop when they checked everything and let him go, the second stop that took a little longer and got a little hairier, I don't think he had everything on him.
Okay.
I believe. So they could have been overly aggressive, maybe not. He had mentioned, too, a couple of instances of people he knows. One was like a 17-year-old kid, lived in an apartment that is well known that a lot of Somali people live there. The kid went to pick up food, and on his way back, they arrested him outside the apartment. They were waiting for people. He says they threw him to the ground, and he was yelling, I'm a citizen, I'm a citizen. They arrested him. They took him. He had no phone on him, nothing. Detained him for like 8 hours, finally let him go, didn't have a ride home, nothing. And I said, okay, well, that doesn't sound very nice. Another person they arrested and sent to Houston to deport. And while in Houston, found out that he was cleared and he was a citizen. And they were like, oh, all right, go ahead. And he's like, how am I getting home?
Up to you.
Up to you. No license, no nothing. Good luck.
So the critics of all of this are right that we are at a heavy-handed state because we're dealing with such a massive number of people who have to be treated that way in order to get to no more illegals that cause danger to other people. So I partially blame the people who just let the massive scale happen so that this is really the only tool that you have. But I expect whenever the government, federal, state, whatever, suspends your rights and liberties, they have to take it serious, be professional, and buy the freaking book. So if you have, yahoos that are just given power of suspending liberties, that's where the critics really have a say, where nobody needs to act like that. If the government didn't need 5 billion ICE officers in order to pull this off, then they could be more deliberate about the number of people that they have in the field. Again, compounding problem means that now you're looking at the law of averages, and what are the chances when you need 10 billion ICE agents that there are going to be a couple in them that aren't taking the role seriously? They're not been in the organization long enough to know what, a professional even looks like in a federal agency. So yeah, it's all the worst scenario is all unfolding.
Yeah, like what being there and this conversation really sort of solidified in me was there are, in fact, two sides to everything and a little truth on each side.
Yep.
There is
Agreed.
a little truth to this and a little truth to this. And somewhere in the middle, we can all agree that.
Yeah, but that's where you engineer and say, all right, well, we still need to do this. Let's fix up our troubles so they're not so revealed. But because it's political, the complaints are the, sort of the device. And they don't want to fix it in either direction. So the one side is not going to make any drastic changes because the PR bubble's already been popped. And so there's no more hell to pay. And the people who are mad about it want to continue to be outraged because they don't want to happen in the first place. So they don't want it fixed either. So you get stuck in that loop of we're going to be complaining in a year from now. Right? Maybe with less volume, but still those things are going to happen rather than smart people getting to the table and saying, okay, let's make this better in this direction to get rid of this truth side.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it better in this direction, get rid of this truth side.
Yeah. And I'd asked him too about the fraud and how that's been all over the news as fraud in the area. And I had said, what are your feelings? Do you ever get angry at the community committing fraud that now you all feel like you've got to pay for, that now,
good question.
Yeah. And I said, maybe you are stopped because of the way you look. You are stopped because you're from some other country, because all these people were bad actors. Are you mad at them that you're now in this position? And he said there was fraud. There was Somalian fraud during COVID, 100%. He said during COVID, but he's like out of a community of, and I don't know the numbers. I can't remember the numbers he used, but his point was out of an extremely large community, like 1,500 people, the equivalent of like 87 committed fraud. He said it was so small that to make everyone else pay doesn't really seem fair. That yes, there was fraud. We're not saying there wasn't, but it was such a small population of how many of us there are. And I said, okay. He said, and then Nick Shirley arrived. And I said, yeah. And he said, and he went around and recording all the daycares. And I said, right. And he says, thing is, our daycares do not open until 2 p.m. They are after school care. So all of the kids aren't there during the day. They're at school. They don't get there till later in the day. He would go earlier in the day and record the place and say, see, there's no kids. There's no kids here. Oh, there must be fraud. They don't actually have kids. And he's like, well, no, there wouldn't be kids till later in the day. But that's not when he comes. And if he does attempt to, he goes to the back door where you're not allowed in. Again, I don't know how true that. I've talked to somebody about this since then, and they're like, okay, I saw Nick Shirley go all hours of the day. I don't know what he actually did, but that was this person's take on it.
And I'll take it probably identified ones that truly were legit, and that lines up. But it's also true that there are going to be some fraudulent ones, way bigger than 80 of them. Okay, that community is notoriously poor. They come from a culture that do not share the same rule book with the rest of us. So ripping off the government isn't some act of immorality or vice to them. It's just a strategy to extract government money from them. And you can't, when you set the pins and you set the stage for that, it was happening, and you're not generally saying all of them were committing fraudulent acts, but it was a hotbed for it. So when you have a hotbed for it, and if the local governments didn't self-police until Nick Shirley comes along, and I'm not making a defense that it's all fraud, and I don't accept a defense where it was just a little bit of fraud. It's somewhere between all and some.
Yeah.
Right? It's somewhere in that
middle.
middle.
A little bit of truth to everything, and I was even sort of comparing it to some people that will take religion or Christianity and be like, oh, well, here's some people that abused others. So you throw it all out? No, you
Right.
say there's bad and there's good.
Right.
And that's kind of what this was, is ice can do some really great beneficial things and they can cross a line. You got a little bit of both, and somewhere in the middle there is the truth and what's necessary.
Right. And it's helpful from the engineering side that when you say something like elections are fraudulent, which means that there are legitimate people voting and there is fraud that's in your system. So the engineers, they don't want to defend against either one of those claims. The minute that you say there's a leak, right, engineers go into fixing the leak. So what engineers say is, here are the pressures that make fraud incredibly hard to pull off. So if I say, here's how I think the fraud is happening, the engineer will say, well, no, this is the defenses against what you think is causing the fraud. And my accusation for fraud is that there is a probability and a possibility that it's happening. And if you don't have a defense against, then I know that it is happening.
Yeah.
There's not mathematically, you're not going to say that it's not happening because people are good people and follow the rules. And when they see something they can get away with, they don't take the bait and whatever, which I don't believe any of that stuff is truthful. So if there is not a defense against, like if you have a government that is like a proponent of fraud, they benefit from the fraud, then you know it's absolutely happening. And you have to then, through attrition, take steps to mitigate or minimize it as much as possible. And there's no motivation for those people who benefit from it to mitigate anything. They're going to just defend it.
Yeah. I wish I did not think of this question until I had already gotten to the airport. I wish I would have asked him, why here? Why did you want to settle in Minnesota? Obviously there's a very large community here and would probably want to be in a community, but why are you all here?
You have a theory?
Sort of. Isn't the whole, what's it called? What's the word? It's a something state.
Sanctuary?
Yes, sanctuary state. I wondered if that was any part of it.
So it's not, really hard calculus. Okay. And we can change the nouns and it's the same. So Somalia is a shithole country. It is a terrible place to live. So if you can leave, you do leave, right? And if you have, if you're looking through the book on places to go that's not Somalia, you are going to basically say, hey, what amenities do different places have? They have a pool, they have a sauna, they have a workout room, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, of all the places in the good old United States, which one is easiest for me to get access to the things I'm going to need? Because going there, it's going to be hard. I don't have immigration status. I'm going to need housing. I'm going to need food. I'm going to I need a supportive city that's not going to try to kick me out. I'm going to need stuff. And then Minnesota was great bait, right? Let's just say there was I lived in a warmer state, right? And I set up a homeless. I want to help the homeless get a house, get access to all either the drugs that you need safely or trying to get off drugs. I give you housing, I give you food, I give you medical, I give you everything that you need, right? In my mind, I was setting this up as to help people in my community. But every homeless person, somebody who's living up in Ohio where I'm sitting out in the freaking cold, I have to beg for everything that I need. What is the place that if I'm going to leave Ohio, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to whoever has the best amenities that won't kick me out. The same reasons for Somalia. So we set up these little bait cities that just attract groups of people. And then once you get like one round of them that come over here, they go, hey guys, there's tons of money to scrape off over here. And then everybody that's in Somalia is going to join their tribe that already went before them. And then you just have this first rate wave and infinite waves of people who are like, I know how to get there. They'll make it easy and I'll give them everything I want. And so they concentrate in these certain areas.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I assumed, because I'm like, it's freezing there in the winter. It's not the most, like if you move to like a scenic rural country area where it was beautiful or you had lots of sunshine or you had whatever, and they'd said, oh, well, I came here because it's beautiful. Okay. But you're not in that. And no offense to Minneapolis, but it is a city. A city is a city. It's not fresh, open air with beautiful trees and warm climate. That's just not what it is. So part of me was like, I kind of feel like I know why you came here.
And think about Somalian operators that they could specifically send people to Minneapolis that they can operate, set up scams, and send tons of money back home to, I form a company in Somalia and I train 20 people to come over here. I tell them exactly how to take advantage of every system, and then they put a suitcase full of money together and they ship it over to my company. And so I have employees that are harvesting the United States government for actual money. It could be an entire mechanism of employed scammers that come here just to siphon off money from the United States government. So those are all the most likely reasons. I mean, there's probably some people who just come here and want a better life and integrate in a friendly deal, and they're not scamming. They're taking only the benefits they need. But from the insiders, like, how do you stop the wave of those people who are now dependent on your system and have no allegiance? They have, no respect or loyalty to the country. It's just a benefits machine for them. Yeah. And do you want that in your country?
I mean, because personally, and it's probably easier for me to say something having never been in the situation, and I recognize that. But yeah, if I were a hardworking, legal citizen caught up in all of the drama, I might be like, I'm going to go live somewhere else then. Like, I'll find another state or another area where, like, I wouldn't want people also coming over and doing it either in a legal or harmful way. And now I'm put in that same category as you guys. Like, I don't want that. And is it fair to always group them with the others? Probably not. But I would just be like, I'm washing my hands of you. I'm not that. I want out of here. And I don't know. That's probably easier said than done, but
that makes no sense, because someone makes a baseless claim. It must be somewhat true, because why would someone say this? That's called manipulation. Look at the motive for who's saying it. To distract or create distrust. Same with election fraud. I can't even listen to this. Geez, you guys are racist talking about Somali communities like this. Now, these are sort of like probabilities and mathematical guesses and understanding human behavior. Mm-hmm. Who it's directed at doesn't matter. I could say the same thing about any other group that would moth to a light to a benefit and taking advantage of something that is easy to get, and the governments are incentivized to pay no attention to the fraud. So like if I said, hey, we'll give you federal money if you go through your databases and investigate and make sure that they're legitimate, do inspections, make sure it's not everything the taxpayers are afraid of. And if you did that, then I know that the people are here are on the assistance and they're qualified. They're not an institutional scammer that's sent here from another country. And you take that off of my radar, right? Mm-hmm, but if I don't trust that they're even doing due diligence to make sure nobody that doesn't deserve to be, Nick Shirley's basically outlined that the profile of fraudsters, right? The standard was met because you don't take an office building and run 20 medical services facilities out of one building. That doesn't fit the profile. If I were just a Somali that came to this country, rented a suite, and actually did medical services operations, I wouldn't have 20 of them. I would only do that if I was like, hey, I'm going to do this whole building and I'm going to send 20 of my operatives and I'm going to have them all do the same scam, and we're going to concentrate our logistics and put them all in one building. It makes more sense. So these are opinions, right? Mm-hmm. But they're very likely to be true opinions.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Penny Lane, I would challenge you to just for a while, just for a temporary amount of time, eliminate the word racist from your vocabulary because it's so off base. I'm so sick of hearing this. Like, I could tell you that I just spent an entire week supporting, conversing with all kinds of immigrants, talking to these people, hearing their stories, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And in the first 30 minutes of being back, I'm called racist. And I told a lot of the women this week, I was like, you wouldn't believe the names that get called because you simply are open to discuss this.
But it was at a gender discriminatory conference.
It was not a discriminatory conference. Men were there.
It is in the title of the conference. The discrimination isn't, covert. It is in the name.
If you went to a Hungarian men in business conference, what should I be mad that I wasn't invited?
Ethnic discrimination.
And gender.
That would be a double dose. How about now if you just use the
men could be mad, but racist it was not.
Yeah. So if we're gonna, you got to be universal about, if something is discriminatory, it can't be subjectively discriminatory. It's discrimination. You are making a subset of people included in the title and excluding, right? Maybe not physically excluding, but excluding from the curriculum a segment of the population. Definitionally,
so should we change the name to the YMCA?
Heck yeah.
Even though women go.
It's in the title, but there's no discrimination in physical discrimination. So just like if your conference, they call it the woman's thing and everybody showed up and the curriculum was based on addressing both sides, then the title is discriminatory, but none of the curriculum was discriminatory.
I don't think it was discriminatory.
So if I go to a bar and I go to ladies drink free night, right? It's ladies drink free night is gender discriminatory. But if I go up to the bar and say, I would like a free drink, and if they gave me a free drink, then it wouldn't be physically discriminatory. It would just be in the name, right?
If a man said, I would very much want to attend this conference, I am sure they'd say, I don't think you're going to like it, but come on.
Right.
And there were men there.
I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I wanted to have a white Caucasian, conference, right? Would you say that the title of it was discriminatory? And would it be looked at different?
In a way, yeah. Well, there's a point. I'm not going to say you don't have a point. I don't fully agree with the fact that it was discriminatory.
But the point is, what we can segment ourselves and, let's just say if I did an entrepreneurials conference, that's discriminating against non-entrepreneurs. Now, non-entrepreneurs might not even want to come, but if at the door I make sure that you're an entrepreneur before you come in, I'm on purpose discriminating. So are we allowed to discriminate?
Yeah, I mean,
what's good discrimination and bad discrimination?
It was like women in clergy, and I'm not a pastor, and one of the girls I went with is not a pastor or clergy, and so I mean there was some nuance there. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we just have to be honest that we on purpose do completely, honest discriminations as a compartmentalization, so we can, talk about things that would be important to that group, and I think it's just fine. You want to have an Italian fest, cool. As long as you don't let, non-Italians in, come help celebrate with you.
Yeah, and people were welcome to come to this. Again, over 600, I think it was 650 female clergy members. A guy might not feel uber comfortable being there, but some came and they were welcome.
All right, Iranian war.
Carter says bingo, Kelin, by the way.
Yeah. We talk truth here, and we're wearing our racism flak jackets.
Yeah,
if you throw that word at us, we don't care. Like, bounces
don't
off.
Don't say anything about any other race or any other complex issue, or you're a racist.
We are not normal. We're smart. Okay, so let's talk about Iran war. What do you know about this sucker now?
So a lot unfolded when I was gone, and I did not have time to really look at it. But of course, I've been on the World Wide Web of misinformation, and so
it was thick too.
Yeah.
The misinformation bots, the propaganda machine was at full throttle this weekend.
Yeah, and I saw, depending on the source of the information, I saw videos of people in Iran celebrating and chanting in support of this. And then I would see like NBC would post mass grieving crowds crying and dressed in black and very upset that this even happened. And so I'm like, again, some are probably happy, some are probably sad, some support it, some don't.
All right, let's talk about the criticisms that are legit and the support that is legit, and we'll just discuss it, dissect it a little bit. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay. So
In a very non-racist way.
Yeah. So, is Iran, why Iran? We'll start off with there. Why Iran?
I don't honestly know. I've heard that they are sort of this dictatorship, sort of terrorist-like controlled society. I don't really know.
Okay, so they have Islamic mullahs that are the supreme leader. So it's basically a theocracy. The country is run by Muslim extremists. So not your diplomacy and your running operations and being a democracy or not and having an economy that isn't based in terrorism. They're not a great actor on the world stage, right? But there are a lot of not great actors on the world stage. You could probably make a list of, 50 countries that are at or worse than Iran. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's number one. It's not because they're the worst actor. So number two data point, imminent threat. Somebody has something, targeting you, or within the next day, weeks, months, that you're going to be a casualty of their actions. Was Iran any of that?
Yes.
Probably not.
I don't know.
I mean, we sanctioned them almost out of existence. We destroyed any of their really dangerous stuff that we were afraid of on the last round of bombings.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They were pretty neutered at this point. Okay. So it's not that they're the worst offender. It's not that there is an imminent threat, which those are two things that are high on my list of if you're going to take military action, this is the reasons why. Well, my two reasons are off the table. So number three, the people over the last 2 months were protesting in the streets against the government. They had enough, and the people were starting to kick the status quo where they wanted to take control of their government, right? And the Iranian government started killing and arresting the people who were in the streets.
I was just going to say, they're not allowed to do that.
They're not allowed to do that. And so you have an uprising in the people saying, I'm willing to take on danger to get my country back. All right. So timing wise, do you want, if we're going to liberate and democratize a country or help democratize, do you want it to be where the people are at its low point, where even if you freed them, that they would still be too traumatized to take control of the reins?
Kind of the beaten puppy.
Or do you want to time it with the uprising and you kicking out their leadership, giving them a chance to self-govern? Now, I don't like playing in this territory. We've never had a track record of helping build a government without it being a complete cluster that costs us more taxpayer money than, can even be imagined. So I don't think we're a great candidate for that. So I think the timing was right. I think they weren't an imminent threat. Now, here's one that you might want to factor in there. We were sanctioning them so that they couldn't make buy-sell of oil with like Venezuela. They were connected to Venezuela. They were sneaking Venezuelan oil into Iran. Now, Iran was selling oil to the Chinese government. They were the major supplier for another enemy of ours, the Chinese government. So indirectly, if you then take away Iraq from supplying your biggest enemy, you almost sanction China a little bit because now their economy gets hurt. So now this is the more nefarious version of this. I want to fight when we're in immediate danger. I don't want to just time something and do an overthrow of government because it's convenient. Now, the using international diplomacy versus sabotaging an enemy using a war in Iraq to do it. So I think it's a matter of convenience where we were at war with Iran and Israel was at war with Iran and Iran was saying, kill Americans, kill Israel. So there was all of the hallmarks of somebody that we should absolutely take off the board, because if they did get any capabilities, they absolutely wouldn't, or they absolutely would take advantage of it. But I don't think this is one metric that gave the green light to this. I think it's a compilation of a lot of benefits to the United States for having done this. And it's a highly risky maneuver because, the Trump administration is dead meat if it goes south.
Yeah.
If they don't go in and uproot this and eliminate all of the leadership, and it doesn't become another, Afghanistan, right? His administration is dead meat. So I know he didn't want to do this. So there's probably some more compelling things and connections that we don't even know about, so we can't even articulate at this point.
Yeah, because part of me was a little like, hold up, what happened to the taking down the industrial military complex and not having so many wars and fighting all the time? And it's like, this kind of feels like we're starting a war. And I could see there being benefit of hey, let's not wait until we're in imminent danger. Maybe it is easier to do when we're not, when we do sort of have them quelled a bit.
Yeah, pinned down. Really pinned down. So now, if the initial strike was to take out their defenses, like their air defenses, their ground defenses, so all of the military installations that if we were flying planes over could take shots at us, the big hypersonic and missiles that they could lob over at Israel and their neighbors, we took that out first. That was number one. But I think the most critical strike was when they took out the 40 people leadership. Okay. And I think over the next couple of days, they're going to continue to take, they've got embedded Mossad agents and probably some American agents as well, CIA and whatnot, black ops, that are embedded in those administrations. So if you see over the next couple of days that they take out the current leadership, and then the person who takes over gets taken out, and the person that takes over for them gets taken out, by the point you're getting into fourth stringers.
Yeah.
Right? Now, having a negotiation with the fourth stringers are going to be a lot easier than the dyed-in-the-wool 3 layers of succession that they probably had baked into their plans, because they had to know that they were at some point going to be tried to take out. And they probably insulated themselves from the fall of the theocracy, right? Because it's a lot easier to have the United States as a friend and hopeful that you rebuild your democracy than an enemy when you've got no nuts at that point. When we were going through the nuclear remediation negotiations over there, they were still playing like they had a sack, because to survive in that part of the world, you got to really be either tough or talk tough, and they were tough talking. All they had to do was make that agreement, right, and behead themselves, and that strike wouldn't have happened. But now that the first strike happens, they know they're really in a perilous position. We keep wiping out leaders that stand up to take the place of Khomeini, and maybe the next talk and rounds are surrendering to our demands and not, pushing back on them so hard.
I did see part of a speech Trump gave about lay down your weapons and we'll kind of stop. And was that before any strikes happened, or was that after?
Oh, that was before.
Okay.
Well, no, he did it twice. So they did it before when they were negotiating, and we were talking tough and saying, if you don't do this, we got all of our army, all of our armaments sitting miles from your shore, right?
Yeah.
We're not messing around. Look at this show of force as a recommendation that we are serious, and if you don't agree to what we're telling you to do, we're going to kick your butt. So we gave them an off-ramp to not get in this position. But here's the thing in that part of the world. We sort of project how things are in the United States, and we expect that Iraq has to play and behave the same way. In that part of the world, if you are vulnerable, you are dead, right? Your country is no more. You can't survive on your own, so you almost have to bluster out and pretend to be bigger than you are, so nobody messes with you. So it's the first... You going to prison and how you would have to behave to survive it is how Iraq had to survive every day, because its neighbors hated them and were warring with them, and factions within their country were also warring with them. You had to play the tough guy no matter what. And the world now sees that it's untrue, right? Mm-hmm. And so enemies of Iran, of Iran, could very easily just pummel that leadership And then we have worse people that take control. And then we're worse off than we actually were before.
Yeah.
So a lot of different elements here. And if you get hung up on the why we're there without putting any effort into like, what the hell do we do now? We broke it to the point where they're a takeover target of someone who might even be freaking worse. Like, now you're on the hook. Sorry to scare you. Julie says, nobody is sad that the Ayatollah is gone. However, but why now? My theory is Trump needs to go on until he can claim no midterms due to the national security and then a shutdown of Epstein. I don't believe either of those two things. I think you're on the right track, right? Before the midterms, he needs a big win. I don't think he's going to get a big win legislatively, economically. I think all of his plans still have another year to really show any benefits in the pocketbooks of Americans, but he needed a national win. And I think he and Israel knew that Iran would not be a really heavy lift to take them the rest of the way out. And if he could have a badge of a quick turnaround success where we operated with optimal outcome, promised and delivered, I think the midterms take a little bit of a shift if that's successful. So I think that's more hiding the Epstein. I don't think that's going anywhere. We have enough voices like Massey and who's that other guy that he's tagged with. Anyway, but I think the wag the dog scenario is not not very likely.
And it's interesting too. Nobody is sad that the Ayatollah is gone. Then why are some media outlets painting that narrative? NBC, I saw, was one. That's things get so shady when it comes to anything that happens.
Let me support this a little bit, right?
Yeah.
In the optimal utopia world, right, we don't take aim at the generals, right? We solve problems without assassinations. We don't want to live in a world that when we put that strategy on the table, then other countries see it and are like, hey, if that's the way to rid ourselves of problems, we can do the same kind of shit.
Yeah.
And now we have countries just taking pot shot at the generals. In early primitive wars, right, the generals were on their horse and they were sitting at the top of the mountain. Easily you could take shots, but it was not an accepted strategy to take out the colonels and generals because they were the leadership.
People had integrity when they fought.
Yeah, they did. They did. That was a no-go. You don't take shots at the generals. But then in the Revolutionary War, our civilian soldiers, we didn't give two shits to the decorum of war, and we took out the generals. And the British were in complete disarray because the leadership structures crumbled. We proved out that the best way to make a superior army to you in disarray is to take out the freaking generals. That's a good strategy. But once one military says that that's okay and that's on the table, you can't be blindsided when other militaries say, hey, assassinations are way easier than full-out large-scale wars against the supreme opposition.
Yeah. And then it feels like it came to be the integrity was you don't, if at any way, shape, or form it can be avoided, you avoid civilians. Do you think that's becoming less and less of a tactic now?
But it's been polluted a little bit because we're dealing with countries that are way weaker than us and they have to strategize to outmaneuver. So if I'm Iran and I know it's really unpopular for civilian casualties that will undermine your entire war, and I build a military building inside a freaking hospital, I've used the people in the hospital as an insulator that I know the Americans won't hit us. It's almost like a defense, right?
Yeah.
And so if military or if civilians are in there, Israel is really dynamic in this fashion, where they will have people on the ground do the more dangerous things. Instead of lobbing a missile that will just take out the building and the civilian casualties are just part of the rubric, they put operatives to try to orchestrate the separation and where to target and maybe smaller munitions only to take out the person they want to take out, not the civilians that are being used as defensive,
Yeah, my husband used to say all the time that when he was over in all kinds of different countries fighting, the bad guys would shield themselves with women and
100%.
children.
They do that. They know
Yeah.
what will protect them, and they use that. So it's the news cycle, and especially if the NBCs of the world pick that up and almost make it seem like our military purposely took out civilian installations.
Yeah. Well, like Julie says, if we can pick out one guy, how can they not miss a girls' school and kill 150 kids?
I read that.
I saw that this morning, that wasn't us. Did you see that?
Listen, we're in the midst of the propaganda cycle.
Yeah.
So you won't know until 8 days later
Yeah.
whether or not it was an errant strike where we just hit the wrong target and oops, right? If, Iran blew it up and tried to pin it on us. If it was mistakes aplenty, or if we're like, there's a command structure inside of a school. We knew it as a command structure. We didn't know that it was housed inside of a school. We won't know which of those are the things
Yeah, I
until
think
much later.
The most recent video I saw claimed, I think it was an Iran missile test that blew up in the air or something.
It could be. Again,
So
like,
they accidentally
they
killed.
don't have very sophisticated munitions, and they're firing off a lot of them. So there's going to be some friendly fire, mistake strikes on their own. Not that they tried to hit their own school, but because they're dealing with old missiles that they, got third hand from a country that would arm them with them. Like, they're not playing with full good stuff.
And it's so scary to me that not only are we dealing with incredibly scary, serious situations, but man, I would really hope, and I know we just said there's a little truth on both sides, but it's concerning that the sources of information have something to gain by putting a little bias on it. So to me, that's the most nefarious, is we are in such a high tense situation discussing this very serious matter that's happening. And depending on the source of information you trust, you may or may not be getting true information, because there are people that benefit if they make Trump look bad and a bad decision maker. And if they say, oh my gosh, he caused all these problems for us, he put us in danger, he killed innocent people, I'm going to make you look bad. And there's another source that's like, he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, and oh my gosh, look at all the good he's doing in the world, and finally somebody is standing up and freeing these people. Like, there's two totally different narratives depending on what source of information you buy into, and that is so scary.
But the administration, if you're going to pick a fight and do a war, you already know that has to be part of it. So if you don't field it out, right, that's on you.
You're like, how could this be spun to look
You have
bad?
to know that. People sitting in that
Yeah.
room are smart enough. Like, the minute we take this and the minute there's a civilian casualty, this, and this is going to happen. Either we have an answer to it or we don't have an answer to it. And if they're like, I don't care, we're just going to do it, that's on them. That's stupidity in it. And maybe you don't even start a war because you don't want the civilian casualties, and that taxes your administration and what it can get done. Maybe you find another method. I don't want war ever to be the first choice. I only want it to be reserved when there's an imminent threat, and then everybody will kind of understand that we didn't have other options, right? And so if I were in the strategy room, and I don't know enough information to know that I would be the guy with the red button, but this would be an escalatory thing. Because there wasn't an immediate threat, we pulled up all of our munitions in the Gulf there to scare you a little bit. You still weren't ready to talk with us. Maybe we do one round to take out all of your air defenses. We stop. We have another meeting and say, okay, we were serious. Do you want to talk yet? No, we're not ready to talk yet. And you escalate it without making the civilian casualty risk as small as effing possible by being so far away from, population densities and where people actually are, and just take 100% certain that this is a military installation, a defense installation, or a offensive installation, and keep escalating it until you get them to the table and actually say, okay, you got us, let's talk.
Yeah. Could there have been any kind of imminent retaliation from the first time? Was it last year when we took out some of their weapons or whatever we did? You know what I'm talking about? Like, could they say maybe it's not that we weren't in imminent danger, but I can't imagine they're happy about what we did there. Could there maybe been more danger than we knew?
It's muddy. right? Because think of Iran as the country and defending itself and having the missiles to be able to defend itself. It does have hypersonic missiles, which are really hard, to shoot down because they travel way faster than your defense missiles that are made to shoot them down. And they didn't use many of those when they were lobbing things at Israel, right? And because if they lobbed any of their good ones, it would immediately, they'd get decimated and rocked by Israel. One of those ballistic missiles on a population center, they would just get bombed into oblivion. So the things they did lob are the things that were expendable, just to show you, like, I'm mad at you kind of thing. Let's shoot it down, but it's still Iran is strong enough to take on the Satan Israel, right?
Yeah.
But the muddy part is that they are not as effective as a state military operator. They're really fierce when it comes to arming proxy terrorist groups. So do I want to put my money into armaments that I can't really even use, or they're going to decimate me? I wouldn't do that either. But if I can give my money and my resources into a Hezbollah, which don't ever have to take responsibility for what Hezbollah, they're a little terrorist organization over there. So I give them IUDs and I give them all my stuff and let them hit Israel in smaller deals. I don't have any consequences on this side. So when we're formulating how to disarm them, we can't use traditional methods. And because their proxies are fluid and ever evolving, we can only keep them at bay. We never really can destroy them, right? And so starving them out was a really good method. If we stopped, like Obama gave them, I don't know, $2 billion, and then Biden freed up like $12 billion funding, and you don't think that went directly down in and into their proxy groups, you're crazy. Yeah. So the starving method is, if they don't have any money and they can't buy things from our other enemies, China, Russia, whatever, they don't have any teeth. They're done.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Julie says, if there was an imminent danger, they would have used that narrative.
Yeah, and I don't think there was. They keep going back to this, that they had, nuclear ambitions for weapons. And they kept saying our nuclear ambitions are for power generation and all civilian use. And I don't buy either one of those, because I think in that part of the world, having a nuclear weapon was more of a trophy than it was that I'm ever seriously going to do it. The fear is that if you get nuclear ability and then you make a nuclear suitcase and you hand it off to one of your proxies, then you can do the same thing, where I can't let Iran get it so that they don't put it in the hands of people who have mortars and machine guns. Now they have nuclear suitcase bombs, and we can't let that freaking happen. So their ambitions, all of the nuclear talks, were to make sure that none of those ambitions translated into getting those things. I don't think they were close, but they wanted it really bad.
So how fearful do you think we should be now? Of what? Retaliation?
No, I don't. They made a really critical mistake. And so the countries that surround them were usually like, we don't like them there. We have to make peace with them so they're not shelling us and making a disturbance for us. We can't join you because obviously then a known enemy that's non-aggressive is a worse enemy if they get aggressive towards us. But Iran started lobbing missiles at all of their neighbors through this. They started retaliating on the very people who would talk this down. It's almost like they want this to come to complete fruition so that they can do something bigger than they've ever gone. They're trying to bait us into like Hiroshima-ing them or something like that. So
they kind of made more enemies that are like, well, screw you. All right, United States, let's do this kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I did see there was that shooting in, was it in
I think there's
Austin,
one in
Texas?
Yeah, there's one in Texas, and there was a stabbing somewhere else.
Was that in relation to, or totally?
Probably. I think, just like they have those proxy actual terrorist groups, they also have sleeper cells that are here in the United States.
Yeah, like I heard a rumor that supposedly there are implants all over to kind of wreak havoc.
The difference is that you have instructed, like are getting their, marching orders from Iran as sleeper cells. I don't think we've seen any of those yet. And then we have people that are just really mad and they bought into narratives and they're just inspired to be a sleeper cell, even if Iran doesn't even know
they're not
they're
an
part of them.
official entity.
Right.
They're just someone here that.
And I think those two that we saw were just mad people, right? And they took the opportunity to be a sleeper cell for that day. I don't think they were the real deal. I don't think we've seen them yet.
Julie says JPOC was working just fine.
Bullshit, it was working fine. I won't accept that.
Trump had to dismantle it because it was an Obama accomplishment.
That was a farce. This was all. I mean, it was a manipulation where
What's JPOC?
There was a joint agreement where the nuclear ambitions were inspected and agreed that they would only do certain levels of refining, and there was a lot of rules and stipulations that kept them into safe development.
It was like an agreement we had.
You would have to convince me that, number one, Iran wouldn't lie to us. Right?
Yeah.
Number two is that the inspectors and the oversight from the people who were allowed in were able to inspect everything. Another, right? So this was a manipulative thing. It was all bureaucracy. It didn't actually do anything. There was no punishments. They broke every rule that they agreed to. So they're just not they're not a trusting, the current administration and the supreme leader were not trustworthy enough to have any kind of agreements because they would never follow it.
I mean, they'll kill their own citizens in the street for protesting, dancing.
Yeah, that's not a good dance partner for a diplomatic agreement.
They're going to have integrity with us, though, right?
Yeah. North Korea is another one that's in that same deal, right? Have I told you the story about what I feel North Korea does?
I don't think so.
Been pretty quiet lately, right?
Yeah.
So you have a despot leader that's not real bright. Okay, he's tyrannical, oppressive, zero economy, completely scoundrel, right? He's a bad person.
Yeah.
And he also has nuclear ambitions for refining.
Yeah.
And about every 4 years, he tests a nuclear capable ballistic missile. And he says, we're close, we're gonna do it. And then in 4 years, diplomatically, we go to him, we give him a bunch of money, and then he goes silent for another 4 years. So he's working the scoundrel system.
Yeah.
That in order to get money, all you got to do is make a little threat, and the United States comes over and starts shielding you with money.
We pay you to not. It's like we pay the hostage. Don't do this.
And so,
or not the hostage,
he's a neutral threat because he's only doing it for cash grab to keep his country afloat and to live a lavish lifestyle. He's not engaging with proxies and doing damage. He's not part of the I Hate Israel brigade. There's nothing more ambitious than just getting money from everybody.
Yeah, kind of just threatening to pay him. Carter says Iran was not very smart in their negotiations. They should know by now that Trump does not bluff.
Yeah, I think they were. Here's the thing. I think that they were in the death phase, and they were extremely desperate, right?
Death phase of their country.
Oh yeah, the people were uprising. The sanctions are cutting off all of your economy. Israel has really defanged a lot of their connections with their proxy groups. They were not in good shape. They were as weak as you could ever be. So I think, like you said, where they were almost baiting us into getting into this, because then they had a chance of negotiating we have some ballistic missiles. We're not gonna use them until we have to, and then we're gonna do a Japan. Right, we're going to make Israel suffer because they're within the distance that these hypersonic missiles get to, and then we're going to get better terms for rebuilding the sanctions and the connections with Hezbollah and the terrorist groups, and they at least have a shot. So this was a desperate attempt to get themselves entangled in some kind of conflict with the United States, as a hope on the other side of it they can get 10 years worth of maybes and concessions from the rest of the world. That's my take on it.
So have we now taken out everyone that could stand in the way of them kind of taking their country over and changing it? And like when Trump's like, now's your chance, act now, take your country back. Have we gotten everyone out of the way other than maybe some?
I think we are in the way now, right?
What?
We, United States, are in the way.
How?
We are not a good dance partner. right? We are not an ally of the Iranian people. They see when we go into a country and break things, how much we leave people
Leave it a
out
mess.
to dry,
Yeah.
and then they're on their own. We don't give them the support that they actually need to do
Well, that
it.
was going to be my next question is, don't we now have to sort of give them some
Can't
aid?
do it because politically, we're not into nation building. We're not into taking over government. So all the things that we would need to do, we would need to be almost the Iranian tyrant in there. And the American people will not tolerate us conquering a country, right? Spending a lot of our treasure and taking over politically a country. You saw in Venezuela, we took the leader out and everybody was like, we're not going to be their president, are we? Right? We're like, we're going to be, but think about how much trust the leadership in Venezuela, that if the tides shift politically, we're going to leave them out to hanging out to dry. And they're worse off than when we went in there in the first place. We are notable. I mean, we have so much history of doing this part wrong. It's not even funny because we want them to come, that projection I was talking about. We want them to be so filled with national pride that they become a better leader than what we just replaced, and the people that end up becoming those leaderships are worse than ones that we deposed. So we're bad at this part, and the people know it.
So this could all be for nothing?
Very much for nothing.
Great.
It could be, and that's my
Right.
fear, is that, let's just say like in Afghanistan, we laid the leadership roles out. And what ended up happening a couple years later, 5 years, we took it off of the headlines. Nobody was paying attention to it. And terrorists, right, ended up running Afghanistan again. So you look to say, we had terrorists, we spent all this money and time, a lot of American lives, and where are we at the end of this? Back to terrorists running non-friendly Afghanistan.
Yeah, because wasn't it kind of like, hey, we got these bad guys out of your way, but didn't equip you with any information or resources to take over?
Culturally, because
So they were
it's such a power-hungry culture, the people that then start running see all the apparatuses that the last one, and they do the same thing. So you end up in the same place. What makes you money there is not economies and marketplaces and cooperations with companies in other countries. It's about the power grab of illicit materials and that create more power and with more projection of power.
So if we act in this way, should we then supply ambassadors or whatnot to be there for a while to sort of help bring them into power in a healthier, more effective way?
I'm going to say something really unpopular here. Is that okay?
Yeah. No, you can't say that on this show.
Historically, right?
Yeah.
Territories were split into two different groups, right? Countries that can defend themselves and remain a country, and countries that shouldn't even be a country anymore. And when you conquered a country, it's because it had resources, it had people, and it couldn't defend itself anyway. So it just becomes an extension of my country, and I increase my territory by conquer, right? Mm-hmm. And so there are a handful of countries that could not survive with outside help, which means they are not a country at all. And so the America should go to these countries, conquer them all, and just make them part of the United States, just separated by continents. And then if we felt like it, after we went in there, conquered, ruled, cleaned it up and straightened it out, then we might give a succession country a chance to be their own self. So think Puerto Rico, or a territory that could be looked at as its own thing, but needs outside factors. So if I help Iran and I build them and I give them diplomatic training, it's going to be an extension of the United States with all of the benefits of being a state, but also permitting not the things like, are you going to set up diplomacy under the Sharia law in Iran? No, our form of democracy and diplomacy doesn't even work in a theocracy in a Muslim nation like that. So we'd have to bring our democracy there for a short time, clean up the power vacuum, and then hand it over, but to who? People who all they know is that kind of law.
Like, you were in your situation for a reason.
Yes.
And if you don't change, you will be back in that situation.
Right.
But then taking them over, absorbing them, changing them to be like us, and then releasing them into the wild
Never
again.
going to happen. It's a bad
You're
experiment.
going to hear people say, well, why are we policing the world and making
That's
everybody
right.
like
We do not
us?
have the stomach for that.
Yeah.
Early world history, conquering was just a way of life, right? My village and your village, you can't defend yourself. We're going to try to cooperate. If you don't want to cooperate, I'm just going to take your village and make it part of my village. Same people living there, but under my rule, my leadership, and whatever. That was just the way of the world. If you wanted to be a real state, you had to put your money and your influence in actually being able to defend your state from all people, or at least cooperate in a way that didn't make enemies with people who are way bigger than you and could step on you. So Iran picked a fight just through our stomach for conquering is not there anymore, lived in that void. Sometimes conquering is good because it eliminates weak, failed states that are desperate enough to take on strategies and methods that make them a really bad enemy when it's coupled with other nations that are weak like they are.
So if you want to live a certain way and you don't want us taking that away, then fine, go do your thing. But the moment you come poke
don't
us...
Don't F with us. The minute you F with us, I should have conquered you all along, and I'm just going to do it. The United State of Iran.
So Jack says, I am currently stuck in Israel. I witnessed a rocket intercept this morning. It was impressive. I got video of it, but it doesn't really capture the event like being there. We protected Japan after World War II, and we made them our friend.
Yeah, but that culturally way different. And in that part of the continent, you don't have... I mean, you do to a point, but it is much different. There's more of a... Like, if you have a country that is poor and you look at what people do for work, how they participate in their deal, and you take Japan pre-World War II and you take Iran here, who could be a better participant in their economies and their work life and family life and whatever? Iran is like Stone Age, and Japan, at least at the time, they were a contributor in being powerful. So you can't really make those two comparisons. Like, I would feel if we decided tomorrow to do Japan again and, offer some of our styles of compliancy with how they need to operate in the world, I think they could pull it off with a higher probability than a Stone Age country like Iran. That's just my take on it.
So could you ever see... he says, very good point. Korea became prosperous.
Yeah, for sure.
So
cultural differences is the difference.
Do you think we should make Iran more like us? Part of us?
Our plan if we're going to tolerate and allowing cultures that, flex in front of us and punch us in the mouth, we have to mitigate and make sure that they never have any weapons to be able to do it. Because so if I came over to my enemy, let's just say your neighbor is like this, right? Brain dead, poor as can be, always screaming at you that he wants to see you die, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you tolerate him living there and say, well, he's mostly all talk. He has to say this so the neighbors won't, he's insecure and he's afraid the neighbors are going to conquer him, and he has to be, bloviate and be that way for the sake of defenses. We just have to make sure that anything he can do to us, like, we make sure he doesn't have any guns. We make sure that his car is made of Velcro. We really mitigate the risk, and then we'll let him live over there. But if all of your mitigation, he's pursuing getting more weaponry to make good on some of his defense posturing, well, then, he can't live there anymore. And so that's why we either have to be really good at mitigating the risk of that terrible neighbor, or we have to get really good about, like, getting them evaporated in really short order.
Yeah. Because, like we said, some are going to be celebrating this and some are going to be grieving and not for this at all. And so anything we do to probably try to step in is going to be met with some kind of opposition.
Right. But they have to actually create something of value that if we create an allyship with Iran and help stabilize them, they got to have something of value to trade back with us that doesn't include these illicit things. We're never going to be a participant in the illicit market game, publicly at least. But if all they have to offer is some oil and terror, right? What are they going to give us in trade for helping them out? There's nothing. We don't want their culture. We don't want their economic practices. We don't want their method of government. There's nothing they have to offer us in exchange. So our deal is shut up, don't F with any of us, and we'll let you be terrible just within your own borders.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Scared.
I've watched very few news coverage. Like every once in a while, I checked in to see how everything's going. And the real strategy that seemed to, I want to talk to you about this, with the only strategy that Iran did that has been effective and is going to F with the gas prices and globe, right? And I don't understand it. Okay. The Strait of Hormuz, right? Do you know
the what?
The Strait of Hormuz.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so there's a transportation, there's a body of water that all of the oil capacity gets out to the ocean, right? And there's a 12-mile wide gap that all of the tanker ships get out into the ocean for transporting oil to all of the people who are trading with Gulf states, right? Mm-hmm. Iran has shut off the entrance or exit. The Strait of Hormuz is shut off right now, right? And so what they basically do, they blockade it. They have all of their missiles and armaments at the snout. They put mines in the water that make it incredibly hard to get through, which means that in that part of the world, oil prices spike. It puts pressure on all of the oil nations to resolve whatever's going on so that oil can flow again, because that's their only product. Only real product in that area.
Yeah.
Well, Iran's holding those people hostage by doing that. Now, if you had the military completely take out all of your defense arms, how quickly could you just like open up the strait, open up the entrance and exit? Like, is our military really not capable of just decommissioning their blockade? That doesn't make any sense to me.
So why don't we?
I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't. I know it's a slow, arduous process because the military has to go slow cleaning up the mines, right, to make it safe passage for the tankers. At the same time, having the threat of their armaments that are well placed. But I would say, hey, we're going to give you a shot. We don't want this closed down anymore because it's disrupting things. Take down your armaments, clean up your mines and whatever. And if they're like, no, we're not going to do it, I would have a train of bombers, right? That's on a reload, like a constant conveyor belt of bombers that flatten all of those areas that are putting defense or offensive fire on that and obliterate it. Give them a chance to move people out of there. But that threat of snarling, transportation of oil out of there can't be their leverage chip. So it's really shocking that they're able to keep
Is it at all in an area that, like a sensitive area? Like if we did that, something could be really detrimental?
I don't know nothing about it. In fact, that they have it, I don't know if it's populated areas on both. I have no idea. I've never looked on it on a map. But it's always this thing that they can do, and nobody's ever really like challenged in making it so they can't do it anymore. It's a weird deal. I don't know enough about it though.
Jack says, I am pretty sure the strait isn't closed. I think it's a threat.
Yeah. So there's nobody traveling because terrorism and insurance for all of those companies went through the roof, because now the likelihood that somebody gets sunk or blown up goes up, and now transport of that material just gets too expensive to be able to transport out of that. So the threat of it. Now, if I remove the things that you were threatening to do, like the mines and the missile positions, then your insurance goes back down and it just becomes a normal passageway again. That's what I don't understand.
So we don't know for sure if it's blocked, but they're threatening like it could be blocked.
They make a statement that say, it is blocked. If you pass through here, we're going to blow you up. That's their blockade.
And nobody wants to call their bluff because you could get blown up.
Exactly. Because these are private companies or state companies that don't want to get blown up.
So you're like, well, let's go blow their shit up.
I just want to take the bombers.
Remove the dam.
Yeah. And I would say okay, if you come through here, we're going to blow up. And then our super coy operatives say, how exactly would you blow us up? And where would you be blowing us up from? Because we got a little delivery for those places. And then take those things out, and now they can say it, but there's nothing they can do to actually cause harm to things traveling that way.
Well, yeah, then there's got to be some sort of strategy. They're like, we don't want to attack. Maybe we know that it's not blocked, but we don't want them to know that we know, because then they want to know how we know. We can't give that away. maybe there is something compromised in the area that big of an explosion could be too detrimental. I don't know.
I think that they have their hypersonic missiles all trained on that 12-mile stretch. And the way that they would take it out, that's the only chip they have at this point. Oh. So they don't want to send their hypersonic missiles and blast into Israel because it's not going to be the war ender. You're going to do some damage, but you're not going to you're not going to end them with your hypersonic missiles. So if I had armaments that are too fast for countermeasures, I'm going to train them all on the port and let economic pressures try to make my chances of being successful. If I starve 12 countries who need this thing to be open, and I'm not, taking the crosshair off of that exit, I hold my last chip. That's the only thing I really got at that point.
I'm even wondering too, could that type of explosion in any way even be too large of a pollutant to the area and then make that unable to use, or I don't know.
I don't think that's a consideration
no?
in that part of the world. I don't think they give two shits about, that's sort of like luxury concerns.
So the strait itself does not provide anything that is lived off
It's just
of.
a natural bottleneck that they say, I can use that to my advantage.
It's strictly transportation.
Just transportation from the Gulf out to the ocean so it can get that oil, selling state oil, out into the world economy. And they're all stuck right now.
There's got to be a way for us to know. We have drones and stuff. We can figure out if it's blocked or not. There's something else going on.
Well, hypersonic missiles are enough to keep me away. If I know I can launch one of those suckers and I can sink your tanker before you even knew what was coming. Think about it. They're hypersonic. There's no defenses against it.
What exactly is hypersonic?
So you have regular missiles that fly at regular, airplane speed.
Yeah.
Hypersonic is going faster than the speed of sound. It is moving.
Wow.
And if I had I think they have 100 of them or so.
Yeah.
And so if I had them, the strait is right next to my country. So I could launch one and you would be sunk in seconds. It wouldn't take, if they launch one to Israel, it'll probably take still 12 minutes to get there because it's flying fast, but it's still got a couple thousand miles of travel to hit. Mm-hmm. 50 miles away at hypersonic speeds is an instant sinking.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think the blockade is a potential blockade, not a physical one. I'm with Jack on that one. Who'd have thought we were talking about world affairs and military strategies and whatever on this show?
Nobody thinks we talk about that kind of stuff.
No, we don't do stuff like that.
I know. We're just terrible racists all the time.
All right, what else is on your brain? I want to get off that topic. More
I don't know.
More later in the week, I'm sure.
Let's see. We've already done politics. This is just silly. Some lightheartedness, maybe. Okay. Have you been seeing the drama surrounding Jim Carrey?
My kid mentioned this.
Yeah.
My kid mentioned this, and
have you seen any of the videos? Or?
I saw a picture. I saw a side-by-side picture.
Yeah. So anyone who's not following, there's a new social media push now. There's content surrounding Jim Carrey, and some people are saying Jim Carrey has been replaced because people believe that there's I don't know, a Hollywood elite or Illuminati or whatever that can replace people for whatever reason, and now we think that this person is a celebrity when that's not them. I will admit, Jim Carrey is looking different, and his face looks different. There was an interview where they said his voice is now different. He could have been recovering from a cold. There's a lot of things that make your voice slightly off. I'm not really taking that into consideration. I think he's had plastic surgery, is what it looks like to me. Now, there's debate on timelines of the last time he was seen and most recently, and supposedly, there would not be enough time that passed. If he had changed his face, the healing time would have been extremely quick. But I don't know. To me, it looks like he got his eyes done. It looks like probably, I don't know what it's called, but I've known a few people that when their eyes start getting a little hooded, they can remove some of your upper eyelid. It looks like that's what he had done. And it looks like he's had filler and things of that nature.
Okay.
So, so there's a picture of him now. This is what everybody is saying. Like, he looks totally different. His eyes probably not so hooded, maybe. I don't know. Definitely the eyes, maybe the cheeks. Even that photo, I don't think he looks quite as different as I've seen in videos.
Okay, you want me to just kind of shut up or give my real feelings?
I want your real feelings.
Why do we effing care? Jim Carrey plays no place in anybody's life. He's not important. His words aren't important. His contribution to acting or comedy are no longer important. The guy, if I told you, hey, there's a turnpike operator that is now replaced, right?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that whoever the turnpike worker was replaced with is going to do turnpike things, and it doesn't affect me in any other way. If the new Jim Carrey stars in a couple roles and use, deadpan humor or whatever his brand was to entertain and make some people laugh, cool. The only thing I hope happens is Jim Carrey was annoying because he thought he was a lot smarter than he actually was. He was highly critical of things that he had no business and was out of his lane on. So hopefully the new Jim Carrey just does comedy and acting and doesn't care to share his personal beliefs or opinion because he has a platform. So there you go. We don't care.
Do you buy into the possibility of some sort of secret Hollywood elite society that can replace people?
5 years ago, I would say, no, nobody's going to expense the effort into, there's too many people as it is. And what's the utility for doing something like that? In the last 5 years, getting more people doing bad stuff than I ever thought before. Now it's like, I don't know that is, but now I'm a little bit more open to, sure, why not? We got a bunch of, really evil people that are in the ruling classes above us. And so, yeah, why not?
But yeah, I kind of bring it back to what's more logical and realistic. We found someone who looks just enough like Jim Carrey to replace Jim Carrey, and we did something with the real one for some reason and nobody knows, or a Hollywood celebrity had work done.
Which is more believable. And the personality changes and the things that he's a little bit more quiet on, right? He's at the waning part of his career, and maybe he sees the schedule board and sees that he's not being requested for roles as much as he did right now. He has an epiphany that maybe it's because he's so outspoken politically and he's harder to hire because of the negative baggage that he carries with them. So had work done, which Hollywood celebrities and entertainers do, and backing off from being so annoyingly political all the time because your career is suffering.
No, he was political.
He's not just political, annoyingly political.
Well, he did go through a season where a lot of people sort of saw some mental health issues there. Like he would give weird answers to things like, well, what's real? None of this is real. None of us are really here.
I think when he played Andy Kaufman, he never really got out of that role. So so he wanted to be, and I don't know if he, modeled his comedy routines after Andy Kaufman, but he turned more and more into a more Andy Kaufman type of character. So.
I wonder if maybe he just was struggling with his mental health for a while, and maybe now he's not. Maybe he got on some meds. Maybe he got some therapy. Maybe he did. Maybe there has been some sort of internal work done that has reflected on the outside and on his behavior. A little bit
of a change. So
and some people said, well, he just aged. He just aged.
And he's trying to keep up with it. Did a little bit too much work that, created a lot of contrast with how he let it look
That's what it looks like to me.
This is most likely.
It does not look like, some people are like, no, he just aged. And when you age, your face looks different. That does not look like a naturally aged face to me. Yeah. That looks like somebody who's had work done. Yeah, like the eyes, the whole, I don't know if I'd say a facelift, but something. He had something done is what that looks like to me.
Okay, checked off as the I don't really care deal.
This person says, I'm a new listener from Niles. Really like your show. I discovered your show from the Boardman Toyota issue. Friend sent me your link. Since I'm a Tacoma owner, was interested and shared with coworkers. The jury's still out for me on the issue. Anyway, good show and nice. It's local. I'm a talk show junkie and SiriusXM listener.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well,
welcome to the program. And we've got quite a variety of different types of personalities, different methodologies. So it's interesting. I hope you join us every morning. and be a nice contributor and participant with us too.
So Jack says, I like the new subject. Do you remember that old miniseries V?
Yes.
They reprogram their brain and send them back. Was Jim Carrey conservative? I think his brain was reprogrammed like in V. Was he?
V was an amazing show as a kid.
I remember the title, but I never actually saw the show.
They were lizard
I don't
people.
think.
Okay. So they were
We've talked
human
about
skin.
this.
And so they purported, they interacted with people being a lizard underneath. And the pivotal moment was when the mask was taken and the lizard snout was there. It was amazing. V
So
was awesome.
was he liberal or conservative?
I don't
when he
know.
went on
That's
his
why I said
rants?
annoying, because he was very sure in his beliefs. And I wouldn't say that it was either fully liberal or fully conservative. I'm going to assume he was a liberal. But
I saw one video of something he did at an award show one time, and I think people kind of appreciated it. It was it Cameron Diaz, I think, and what is his name? Of course, I'm not going to remember their names now. There were two presenters at an award show, a male and a female. And the male presenter kept trying to kiss the female. He was trying to be funny, whatever. He kept trying to kiss her, and she's like, ha, ha. And he's trying to push him away, and he would not let up. And it got kind of awkward to even watch. Mm-hmm. So the award for whatever this was went to Jim Carrey. And when he went up on stage, he grabbed the male presenter and started trying to kiss him. And the guy's like, oh, dude, what the? And he did it to him. And everybody said that was him standing up for her. Like, don't grab women. Keep your mouth to yourself. She clearly didn't want this, and you pushed it and pushed it. Well, guess what, man? I'm doing it to you now. Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of respected that.
Yeah. Was it Chris Isaac, by the way?
Yes.
Was it?
I think so. He's a singer, right? Yeah. It might have been Chris Isaac and Cameron Diaz, maybe. So, yeah, Cameron Diaz. Thank you. So, I mean, I saw a couple of things. I know, like, when he was with Jenny McCartney, they talked a lot about vaccines and autism, and he kind of supported causes with her. And other than that, though, I don't recall ever hearing much from him other than the weird ranting.
The thing is that he was one of my favorites. I love the comedy genre, and the people who do it right are some of my heroes as far as presentation. But when they ultimately get captured by a side and become overtly political, that's when they ruin it for me, because they're no longer funny. They're using my attention that I had for them at one time and pummeling me with messaging that I'm looking to escape things. So if you're just like going around making fun of everybody because you make fun of people versus like, now I'm a activist and I make fun of President Trump or I make fun of Joe Biden only, right? Well, you ruined it for me, because you're not just a person that pokes fun at everybody and lampoons everything. You're just a assassin.
Yeah, and that's kind of was my point when I first got to Minnesota and this conference first started in the earlier part of the week. And some very strong positions and statements were being made. And my first gut reaction was like, if this is going to be a political conference, I'm going to be mad. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be mad that I came to this. Like, this isn't love everybody like Jesus. This is love everybody like Jesus if you agree with us and are supportive of us. And again, to be fair, it wasn't just that. I think I went a little hypersensitive to what I was seeing and hearing.
That's good.
And I was going to be like, hey, let's be careful. Let's see if we're bashing people. This isn't meant to be divisive in any way. Parts of it still were. Not completely, but yeah.
But not everybody at a conference isn't when the microphone's in front of them and they have the stage and they feel passionately about something. It's hard for you to stomach what should be said to a large crowd of indoctrination candidates and things you just keep inside and feel for yourself.
Yeah, and somebody even said, they were like, well, nowadays everything is political. Politics is dragged into everything. It is everywhere. And I said, yes, it is. All the more reason to try to quell that in a situation like this. And I absolutely get why a few of the speakers would feel the need to say something And I tried my best to give them that. I tried my best to be understanding, to see things from other points of views. And again, if anything, I learned if I were to ever be up there speaking, I would word things differently. It was all about unity and coming together and working together. And that's great. So then you've got to be careful what you say, because you can very easily just crap on all the unity you thought you were spreading.
If we create smarter people, then not everything will be political. Because here's what politics is. The more dumb people you create, they're not really an expert or good at anything. They're too really dumb. But politics is one of the real industries that you can wander into it. You don't have to have any kind of original thoughts or principles. You can adopt every single thing that comes out of your mouth from other people that might be smarter than you. You could wear all of those things that they say as badges of armor or clothing of armor, and you can go out into the world, say a parroted thing that you heard somebody else say, and when people look at you, they say things like, "Oh, that is so profound," and then you're like, I'm wearing a meat suit that somebody else created, and I can feel like I'm intelligent in one vein of real life. So it gave dumb people an outlet to feel at least part of a contribution, or at least a little bit smarter than they actually are. And that's why you have so many people in politics.
Yeah. If anything, this conference taught me to embrace nuance. I mean, not everything is black and white. Not everything is good versus bad. It's funny. One of my favorite speakers started off by saying, there's probably some women in this room that don't really feel like they fit in, because we are too conservative for the progressives, and we're too progressive for the conservatives, and we're too this about this. And I'm like, yeah, I see your point and I see your point, and I get them both. Why do I have to pick a side? I sat down to eat lunch, and there was two girls having a conversation about the Super Bowl. And they were talking about Bad Bunny and this and that. And then they said, oh, yeah, and the Turning Point one, it was so anti-Christian, lyrics about, I hope he cheats on you. That's not Christian. And I'm just like, did you hear Bad Bunny's lyrics? But I was just like, all right, I'm just going to let this go. And then they started talking about, did you see RFK Jr. and Kid Rock's video they made together working out? Oh my God, it was so silly. It was so, I'm an RFK Jr. fan. I'm a fangirl. This was the silliest thing I've ever seen. It was Kid Rock, RFK Jr. with their shirts off, working out, drinking milk, being all pro health, living healthy. But again, it's Kid Rock. It was. And I wanted to say, here's the thing. I actually like RFK Jr., and that video was cringe. Where's the middle ground? Where is call that out and call that out? Support this, but also see your point. It feels like things are just too why do you have to pick a side instead of everybody coming together and be like, you know what? Things are, there it is. That is it. And
who wears jeans to work out, by the way?
I thought the same thing. He's always in jeans in his workout videos. But nobody can, that man is 71 years old? Come on. That is impressive. That is impressive. Kid Rock, at this point, just kind of seems a little nutty. I don't know if he is or not. He just seems a little nutty. And
I still listen to a couple of his tunes on my playlist.
Yeah. And that's I watched Turning Point's Super Bowl because I am a millennial and I know those songs. I don't know any Bad Bunny songs. I'm sure he's great. I tried to flip back and forth. I tried to see a little bit of each one. But ultimately, Kid Rock, I'm going to relate to more than Bad Bunny because I don't know Bad Bunny and I know Kid Rock.
Bad Bunny needs to star in more comedies with Adam Sandler. He was amazing in that movie.
Was it Happy Gilmore 2?
Yeah.
I still have not seen that.
He was so good in it. He's one of my favorite characters in there. So I don't like that people were picking on the Bad Bunny from the movie. He picked the career, he picked the songs, he became a polarizing figure. But I hope he just star in more comedies, and I'll love that.
Can you still be a talented artist and funny in movies and put on a Super Bowl halftime show? That's just not my cup of tea. Yes. Mm-hmm. Can Kid Rock be the guy that had the harsh lyrics in the early 2000s and still sort of be changed and make Christian music? Sure. Like, he was number 1, I think, on the Hot Billboard Christian 100 or something because of the song he sang at Turning Point USA. And everyone's like, come on, it's Kid Rock. This is the same dude that did this, this, and that. Yes, it's cringy. But do people change? Sure. Why is everything one side or the other? Why can't you just be like, oh yeah, that's good, and that's good too. That's dumb, and that's dumb too. I'm so sick of picking a side. I'm in the middle, and I'm going to stay that. I had somebody tell me being in the middle is not a good thing. You got to choose a side. That's the easy way out, to be in the middle. That's the politically correct. Or it's sometimes the smarter way. It's showing that this is a complicated situation. Not, oh, I'm afraid of getting in trouble, so I don't want to say what I'm feeling. No, what I'm feeling is, I get it, and I get it. And that's a complicated situation.
Being a fence sitter is hard because you're just not joining the tribe, right? So joining a side is for all the people that are just pussies and can't take the heat of having their own mind. They go to the primitive tribe so they can offload and outsource the thinking to their tribe. So I don't like easy. Never have.
But that's what they would say to the fence sitter, is you're just too scared to pick a side because of backlash of the other side. No. And I'm like,
nope. Being on your own is a lot harder than joining the mob. And so, yeah, I'm with you. Stay as a fence sitter. Now, if you turn into a Switzerland, where you use the posture of staying in between things because you are scared of the confrontation, where your default is, white flag, literally, then that is a courage issue. But if you stay independent, and staying independent is harder than joining a side, well, that is an act of courage. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, the very first night there, I pulled the people I was with aside after it got started. Things were done for the evening. Go back to your rooms, whatever. And I said, I don't want to bring this up because it's very uncomfortable. But if I don't, I will hate this week. And I'm not going to be here all week long and be gritting my teeth because I'm afraid to say something. So let me tell you what I saw and what I heard. And you all can tell me where I misunderstood and where I took it the wrong way, because that's quite possible that I took it the wrong way. And so I think having those conversations, even though I'm an overthinker, the next morning I woke up just cringing. I should have never said anything. I probably came off as this, or I came off as that, or maybe they misunderstood why I was saying anything in the first place. But I said something because those conversations, in my opinion, are important. If something struck you as wrong or divisive or biased, and you say nothing, like you said, to keep the peace, well, then you're just now over here forming your own opinion and hating that side, and they're over here forming their opinion and hating your side. So why don't you say something? Could you explain that to me? Could you tell me what you meant by that? Can I tell you how I took that, and let's come to common ground here? Like, when I am in Minneapolis and my driver, I have 20 minutes one-on-one with a person who is in the thick of everything we've been seeing in the news. And I said, could you tell me your experience? Because I see all this on the news and I want to hear it straight from somebody who's in it. I don't have to agree or disagree, but I can say, okay, that's a good source of information and I'm at least going to ask. Because if we don't ask, because we fear being racist, then we get nowhere. Then if anything, racism does form because you didn't choose to actually find out any real information.
Well, and the platform matters. Like, we're in the business of having conversations, two-way, multiple people, bi-directional speaking, right? When I get on stage and I have a mic and everybody is a subordinate to the conversation, then if you use the platform that no one can talk back at you, that means that you are no longer doing the valued conversation thing. So I take an idea that you might disagree with, and because you can't talk, I just blam you with it, right? That's not going to be an appreciated thing. So when I'm on stage, I'm going to not say things that I know people aren't going to disagree with, and use the breakout sessions when other people could talk back to now have that part of the conversation if it's truly important to you.
Yeah.
But I think academics, professors, and lecturers, they take advantage of their position that nobody's talking back in the other direction and pushing on their beliefs. You get in line, you hear what was being told, you accept it, and if you don't like it, F you, I don't want your words back at me because I disagree with it.
Yeah, in fact, one of the bishops that spoke said, are we in the business of being peacemakers or peacekeepers? You can go make peace, but saying nothing is just keeping the peace.
Right.
And it really isn't, though, you know?
So I hope more people like you will say something, only because the people who are used to having a megaphone, saying what they want to say, and not having a lick of interest in anything you have to say back. In fact, they will drown you out with their megaphone so they don't have to hear what you say back. They want you to receive, and they don't want to get anything in return. That is not conversation.
Yeah, Julie says, be on the side of right versus wrong, good versus evil, constitution versus lawless.
Absolutely. I think we're on the same page today, Julie.
Ricky says, tip. What does that mean? Is that a slang I don't understand?
No, I
Is
don't
that
know.
like bet? Ricky, you're going to have to explain. I'm an older millennial, and I don't know what tip
my
means.
son got very mad at me because I made a bunch of jokes about Gen Z terminology. And he told me, Dad, I really don't like that. Stop. And I made one more. I couldn't help it one more. And he got so mad that I was being disrespectful and using cringe language around him.
Does your son do this?
No.
Oh, my God. What the hell is this? It's like a version of snapping, or it's sometimes it's this, sometimes it's this. And it's like to replace clapping. It's like a yes, queen. Kind of, I saw some younger people doing that. When they heard something, they're like,
Yeah.
I wanted to be like, I'm going to break your fingers if I see that again. Stop doing that.
So when my kid was going through school, they did that. It was a Montessori school, so it was made up of a lot of little hippie families and hippie teachers and whatever. And they say that when you clap, you make a loud noise, and it could startle people with sensitivities to loud noise. It's aggressive. It makes people feel threatened. And I'm like, listen, Ryan, I know that you have to conform to this because it's the rules that we don't clap for that reason. But I want you to know, if there's anybody in your class, right, that is ruined in the moment because of loud noises, then you are not teaching strength. You are basically creating weakness in people, where they're going to expect everybody to go through life to shield them from the noises that are disruptive, instead of creating an immune system that can deal with what other people do, even if you find it annoying. So the self-serving, egotistical little finger snaps, right? Virtue singles, like, look, I care about you. I care. I have my Free Palestine thing, and I have my anti-capitalism, and I'm finger clapping for you, right?
Well, and another reason I hate it is I saw it in several instances where I realized what they were doing. But my knee-jerk reaction, being an older millennial, it looked like you were snapping at someone, which I've been raised to see as rude. To be like, hey, that's rude. That's harsh. And to me, it's just too close. It's too close. When you do that, it comes off as distracting, I think. So they maybe mean it to not be distracting or to be less distracting than clapping, but to me, it's way worse.
Well, that generation, they want to have language and behaviors that are just different. And that's why they invent words, they invent mannerisms, because they just want to be unique, and they haven't found identity in real life. So they have to create ones that sort of mimic unique things.
We got 5 minutes. So one really interesting panel in one of our workshops was about Gen Z. And their point was Gen Z in the church, and why are there Gen Z dwindling in the church, and how do we get them involved in things of that nature? And they were saying how Gen Z is referred to as the anxious generation. They're just riddled with anxiety. And so I sat next to a girl who was 22, I think. I don't know. She was part of Gen Z. And I had said, why do you think you and everybody in your age group is so anxious? And she had said, well, the world is just very scary, and we see a lot of scary things. And I say, interesting. By what means do you see it? Do you see it on mainstream media? Do you see it on social media? Do you see it where do you get your information? Is the bulk of your information given to you, and be honest, through social media apps? And she's like, yeah, it is. She's like, we see things on social media that scare us. And I'm like,
Three things. This is the reason that they're the anxious generation. Number one, poisonous toxic food. Number two, overstimulation. Things are brighter, faster, and louder.
Yep.
Right? And number three, poisoning by pharmacology, pharmaceuticals. Okay? So they're taking drugs. Their blood is laden with toxins. They're eating poisons. Blood is laden with toxins. And they're exposing themselves to overstimulation that never has downtime. It's a constant influx of things that are happening. Delivery methods increase. Speed of those things increase. And if you're taking it in as it's coming in, you're going to be your neurological system is going to be overwhelmed.
And you are constantly watched and judged.
Yep.
Constantly. We, as kids, didn't have a cell phone recording our every dumb move we made. You could say something, you could tell somebody a joke, you could do something stupid, and the whole world didn't know. Now there is no privacy. Everything you say can be misconstrued, and you can twist your words. Everything you do can be blasted across the internet. And then you don't even know what's real. Now you have AI.
But again, that's a sub-metric of that. So if you are that way and once been identified as someone who's anxious, if all of your choices are all of the things that make you anxious, then you're kind of choosing that. So if I took you in a dark room right now and I put a light in here and I strobed it at you, and you have visual, like, light impulses into your brain, and then your brain doesn't know, if I left it on for 5 minutes, eventually your neurological system is overstimulated and you're taking it in too fast and it can't make any sense of it. And it's just creating noise. Your nervous system will, by defense, shut down and block out the inputs that are coming in, right? Which then blinds you on information that we use to regulate ourselves and survive and thrive. So if the minute that you have a free moment, if you don't go off into peace and let your brain detangle and come down, if you immediately subject it to the more flashing strobe lights, you are choosing all the poisons, toxin, and overstimulation that causes the thing. You're taking it as our generation's anxious. It's not biological that you're anxious. You all have habits that are making you anxious.
Yeah.
And so the minute that you say it's like a disease that I can't help, you're doing the things that cause it. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here for today. All right, we'll catch you guys tomorrow.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on